there's any chemical weapons used by Putin, that would be a war crime, and I would be supportive of a no-fly zone as a response to that. You see war crimes being committed in front of you on television every day, and the Biden administration looks at Putin as a partner for climate change and an Iran deal maker rather than a war criminal.
That was Senator Lindsey Graham yesterday on Fox when asked about those fighter jets being sent to Poland. He called it deplorable and dishonorable that the United States would not back the plan to transfer 28 fighter jets from Poland to Ukraine to help it defend itself against Russia's aggression. Now, Russia has said it will treat any arms shipments to Ukraine from NATO countries as legitimate targets for military action in what appears to be a dangerous new escalation of tensions. And according to The Guardian, the warning came from the Deputy Foreign Minister, Sergei Rabkov. This comes as support builds for Ukraine and NATO allies who have been shipping, of course, thousands of anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles to Kyiv in response to Putin's invasion. In fact, just on Sunday, escalations, Russia is making moves now to the west, striking a large Ukrainian base near the border of Poland with its NATO member. That is a NATO member. 35 people were killed, 134 injured there. Russia's defense ministry saying the airstrike had destroyed a large amount of weapons supplied by foreign nations that were being stored at this sprawling training facility, and that it had killed up to 180 foreign mercenaries. We want to welcome in now Irina Tukerman, who is born in Kharkiv, the second largest city in Ukraine, obviously very hard hit. And you're also a human rights attorney and an analyst. Thank you for joining us today, Irina.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
I want to ask you first about this attack here on that Ukrainian military base. It is very close to Poland, closer than these other attacks really had come. There's a lot of concern, some saying that Putin will not stop. He will go into a NATO country. In fact, the president of Latvia already calling for a permanent NATO military base now and a strengthened presence there. What is your read on Putin's, appetite for going past Ukraine into a NATO area?
I don't think it can be ruled out, given the consistency of Putin's imperial ambitions over the decades, the fact that he has been supported by ideologues like Dugin, who have called for elimination of Ukrainians, essentially calling for genocide, and who have supported Stalinism and imperial incorporation of past territories from the Russian Empire back into Russia. There's also been other messaging reinforcing Russia's intent to go into the other countries following takeover of Ukraine. Whether or not it will first go for NATO or other non-NATO states remains a question. Most likely, it would first go for Sweden and Finland, despite their significant military capabilities. But Putin himself messaged that as much.
When we are seeing everything happen in your home country, and you are from Kharkiv, that city has been decimated by attacks, a care home for disabled people attacked. We know that there have been civilians injured in the attack that women and children. It's just been horrible to see. But for you as someone who is from that area, when you see that happening, it must be even more difficult. Explain to us your thoughts and your feelings watching some of the images that come in from Kharkiv.
To me, this is particularly devastating because Ukraine has grown tremendously from its experiences. It has rebuilt itself significantly. It has been modernizing in recent years. It has overcome significant economic privation, corruption. It has been on the way to becoming the sort of country that the US and Western countries here and Europe have wanted to see, a country that's dedicated to reform, to human rights, to democratic processes. And now the millions of innocent human beings are forced into a refugee crisis. They're being killed, they're being terrorized, their homes are destroyed for no reason whatsoever, other than another country's imperial ambitions. It has nothing to do with ambitions for NATO. Ukraine is not a NATO state, and
we're almost out of time here, but I do want to get your thoughts. There's been obviously very united response on the no-fly zone, the U.S. and NATO saying that they won't be doing that. The MiG's not happening. Do you have a message to the Biden administration? What would you say to President Biden?
I would say that Ukraine has not asked for the United States or for anyone else to enter the war. They asked for reasonable assistance for Ukraine to defend themselves. No-fly zone is simply Ukraine's ability to enforce its own security in its own right against an aggressor that threatens NATO. If Ukraine falls, NATO countries are next. So this is a way to prevent escalation. This is a way to cut
Irina Tuckerman, we really appreciate you joining us, and we know that you have a lot of analysis as someone who grew up in that country, and we appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for being with us.